Good evening. This is Monday, October 24th, 2022. It is 5:32 p.m. This is the Guam Election Commission regular meeting, GEC Conference Room, Suite 205, Oka Building. For meeting live stream, visit GEC's website at https:/gec.guam.gov/board. This meeting is called to order. We have a quorum present. To my right, we have Commissioner G. Patrick Seville, Commissioner Benny A. Pinella, Commissioner Antonia Tony Gumatautau. To my left, Commissioner Carissa Pangilinan, Commissioner Joseph P. Moffness, myself, Chairperson Alice Tyron, and excused absence is Vice Chair Jerry C. Chrysostom. Also present is the legal counsel, Mr. Vincent Camacho, and our Executive Director, Maria Pangilinan. Maria, certification of public notice requirements?
Published in the Daily Post on October 17th and October 19th, and on the public notice website.
Okay. And we do have available through our packet here the certification of public notice, the notification requirements, publication. Item number 3, approval of agenda.
So moved.
Motion to approve the agenda by Commissioner Joseph Moffness and seconded by Commissioner Antonia Tony Gumatautau. Item number subject to technical corrections. Or yeah. Approval of our minutes from October 5th, 2022. That's the regular meeting found on page 8. The approval of the October 5th, 2022 regular meeting minutes made by Commissioner Gumatautau, seconded by Commissioner Pangilinan, subject to technical corrections. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right. Minutes approved and passed. The approval of the minutes for October 10th, 2022, that's our reconvened meeting. So that October 10th was our recessed meeting from, I believe, October 5th, correct?
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve our October 10th minutes. Second? Subject to technical corrections. Subject to technical corrections.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve our October 10th reconvened meeting minutes by Commissioner Pinella and seconded by Commissioner Seville, subject to technical corrections. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, all those opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 5, correspondence. Item A, 5A, complaint regarding campaign sign violations, page 12. Maria?
Ma'am, we received this from Ms. on October 6th. Talked with legal counsel, and we have no jurisdiction.
What kind of signs are these? What type of signs are these? It's not clear in the picture. Is it a political sign?
That's the question.
Oh,
I believe, I drive by, there's actually a couple on East Road. I drive by them every night.
I can't read it.
And they seem to be something about crime. They're against it, but it doesn't say, there's no identifying information. Ironically, is Jennifer Crisostomo Camacho with the Camacho?
The spouse.
Leavens wife.
Oh, that's Levin's one, okay. I was thinking this was from Felix's campaign. Anyway, it doesn't have any information on it.
But it does reference voting for AG on it. It doesn't have a name, it just, in general, it's
Oh,
a
does
general
it?
statement about voting for
Okay.
AG.
Oh, is it, see, they have too much information and I never get to the bottom. I start at the top, so it must be at the bottom.
So with regard to sign violations, that is a DPW issue? Now, the GEC establishes what should be on the signs, correct?
Madam Chair, that was by law and assigned to DPW to do the enforcement.
No, I understand that DPW will enforce if a sign is placed on government easement, on a government building. Now, when it comes to actual political signs, vote for so-and-so, what is needed or should be, because that's advertising, correct?
It falls under the advertising definition, right? But again, under the sign law, when the legislature changed the sign law, it took away any authority that the Guam Election Commission had to do anything with regard to the signs. So as long as the signs meet the requirements that has who the treasurer
No,
Is-
just the address.
or the address, then as long as that's on there, it's not in violation of the advertising requirement. But we have no jurisdiction over signs now.
I understand that. My point is, if there's a sign out there, it's a political sign, they need to follow the rules and regulations with regard to whatever is established by law to place on your political sign. Vote for so-and-so, your committee's address, right? Doesn't need the treasurer's name, just as long as it's there, correct? Now, DPW has the authority to enforce these things. Is it clear with regard to, do they also enforce if they've violated the advertising portion of it? Is that also within DPW's purview? No?
Not according to the law after it was passed.
So whose purview is that violation? That's I'm wanting to ask is, who oversees that to ensure that these political signs are adhering to our election laws with regard to advertising?
That would be the Guam Election Commission, but we have no enforcement ability. There's nothing in the law that says what you can do.
It just says it's violated.
Yeah, you can't say take it down because that's what the law was. The law was changed to remove the penalty from a violation. Because before it used to be a political violator or a sign violation would prohibit that person from receiving the deposit for the sign permit, right? That's no longer there because they don't pay a sign permit. That was the only penalty, really.
Yep. So that's a little bit concerning, right? Because then it allows, this is kind of like the loophole, right? To allow people to get away with these kinds of things. So we can't do anything at this point in time, right? And this is just a request, and it's not a complaint of any sort. Maria, we understand that?
Well,
Is-
with regard, if we're talking about these specific signs,
I'm talking about any sign.
well,
Anything that pertains to politically promoting, whether it be your thoughts and ideas and your opinions, you're promoting it. Is that political? Is it going to garner? Is it to get a vote? Is it, anything like that? That at this point in time, it's not in the law, I get it, and I'm going to ask that be something, because there's something else that legal counsel was asked to look into, to add to the list of things that we could potentially look at and change in the law, and get to our legislature, say, hey, look, this is what's happening.
Well, that's what I wanted to distinguish, right? Because these signs do not promote anybody or any agenda. As a matter of fact, all it says is go and vote. And so it's on private property, so there's constitutional protections as to what you can put on your private property and what it says.
I understand private property, I'm talking about.
All these signs are on private property. So what I'm saying is, I don't know whether we can control that part of it unless it meets the definition of what advertising is in the Guam Election Code, which means to promote a candidate or an issue. These signs don't do any of those things. It just says, we have a lot of crime, vote for an AG. So I don't know if that's not promoting, it's definitely not promoting a person.
Correct.
And it's not saying vote for or against a certain issue. It's actually promoting a vote, to just go and vote, right? So that's where I think we get into issues with these specific signs, and I'm not talking about signs in general.
It's just, and then what happens is you'll have a platform, someone with a platform that, oh my gosh, it actually just links into these signs. But that's a different
Correct.
discussion. I get it. I understand. But I think we ought to revisit a lot of these definitions in the books that have probably been here a long time. And
Well, I think really, which is, I agree with you, in that if you're going to have rules and regulations that deal with elections, campaign signs, whether it's for a person or individual, there has to be authority for the GEC to hold people accountable. And unfortunately, when they changed the sign law, that was taken out. So I think it's a very reasonable thing to look into going forward, because we always get these questions every election now that the sign law has changed, but Maria can't do anything, you guys can't do anything at this point. So I think going forward, we definitely have to look into.
most definitely legal counsel, and that's something that I'm asking that we do look into, is to get the authority to be able to do something about these things.
Yeah.
Just put that on your to-do list.
Okay.
There was something else that was asked of Jerry, and I can't remember at this point, but when I do, I'll bring it up.
I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the rules and regs for the fines.
Okay. And we need to go through our AAA process, and we'd like to get started on that.
Yes.
Yep. And I think the Finance Committee, Jerry is supposed to research, and then the Finance Committee is supposed to meet and review that. Okay. It's 2023. Okay. Do we have any discussions with regard to, or any questions regarding our, the correspondence? Okay. And just for clarification and public edification, that the Guam Election Commission unfortunately does not have authority over the enforcement of signs, and that is pursuant to laws that were passed previously, correct? It was taken away by laws that were passed previously, previous legislatures.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Did we respond to Ms. Camacho?
I wanted to bring it here first.
I mean, at least, I think it's always been the practice of the commission to write her a letter, write people a letter to say this is where we are, et cetera.
Okay, will do.
I Item number 6, the Executive Director's Report. 6A, the 2022 general election timeline, page 13.
Ma'am, so we've been going through the early voting. We have 3,550, I believe, voters just from early voting at Weston, at Okudu, and at GCC. And then I sent you out all absentee voters to include off-island and homebound. So that's in your inboxes. I was only able to send it this afternoon. If we look at the timeline, one of the things I wanted to bring up, and today's the last day of registration. District registration is going on right now until 8 o'clock. We're looking at probably 59,600 some by the time we finish tonight. We will keep you posted and when we get our final numbers.
Before you proceed on registration, just for public consumption and edification, today is the last day to register to vote. Early voting continues tomorrow, Tuesday, correct? There is no registration to vote and to register and vote on the same day. Today is the last day, 8 p.m. at the mayor's offices and 8 p.m. at the Guam Election Commission at the OCA office in Tammany. So today is the last day to register to vote. All right, I wanted that to be clear because previously, in the past 2 weeks, we've allowed it, you can register and vote at the same time. And so that it is not confused, early voting continues tomorrow up until November 3rd. Correct?
Yeah. And ma'am, I will continue, if you can, remind these late registrants to please bring their yellow copies if they're going to early vote. If they're going to vote at the general election, their names will be on the roster. But right now, if they go to early vote, the yellow copies will help us a lot.
Let's hope they heard that. If you're going to vote early, bring your yellow AORs. It's the affidavit of registration. Correct, Maria? Okay. Names will be placed on the roster for the general election, but if you do early vote, bring your affidavit. You should also bring that with you on the day of election, just in case. And Maria, in the primary election, and I apologize, commissioners, I just need to bring this up, is we had many voters who were turned away, and the Guam Election Commission has said it time and time again, and this is for public edification, right? No voter shall be turned away. What is provided is a provisional ballot. On election day, should a voter be turned away from the polls, can they call the Guam Election Commission at that point and report that they were turned away?
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. All right, so I want the public to know no voter should ever be turned away from the polls for whatever reason, and if they run into that situation, that they call the Guam Election Commission. And I believe the Guam Election Commission does have its contact numbers posted. Mm-hmm. You can continue, Maria.
The next satellite voting is this Saturday at Melissa Elementary School. We visited them today. We will be setting up Friday afternoon. Actual early voting starts at 10 o'clock until 3 o'clock at Melissa Martyrs Elementary School this Saturday, October 29th. And we will continue early voting at the West End, even up until next week. But please remember that November 2nd is a holiday, so we will be closed and we will resume November 3rd.
Maria, where are we in terms of early voting, in terms of your projection?
I didn't have projections, sir, but we are at 3,550. That's higher than the primary election at this time, much lower than the general election of 2020.
How much lower?
I don't have that, figure in front of me, but I can get it for you.
That is the general election of 2020. That was not a non-gubernatorial election.
Correct.
I don't recall if we did satellites for the gubernatorial in 2018.
Todd's at early voting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maria, are you working on the map and infographic for Mauricio?
It's really, sir, it's really simple. It's only one room.
No, I realize that, but you know how you make those infographics and you send it to us? Those are really good infographics that we send out to other people.
I see. The little blue one that I've sent to you, that still indicates Molesso, so we can use that. GCC put the stuff together for GCC. We'll do something for Molesso tonight and send it to you.
Yeah, those are really, really helpful.
Okay.
Do we have any questions on the timeline?
Madam Chair, may I talk about November 6th? Sunday, November 6th is the test election. It is now listed at 6 o'clock. It's actually Sunday, so if the commissioners are okay, we can do it earlier. 4 o'clock?
On Sunday?
Yeah. Okay. And then we'll be out there before dark.
Are the commissioners okay with 4 o'clock? Is that a,
Yeah.
this schedule was approved by the commissioners recently, right? Previously?
Yes,
Do we need a motion to change this?
it's the time.
The time? There was a motion to change the time for Sunday, November 6, 2022 for the test election from 6 p.m. to 4 p.m. November? Sunday, November 6, 2022 is the test election. There was a motion to change the time from 6 p.m. to 4 p.m. made by Commissioner Moffner, seconded by Commissioner Gumatauto. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? 4 p.m. on Sunday, November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you.
So on the same, on the same.
No, that was the,
We're changing it.
We're changing it to 4.
No, it says they're regular, so that's going to be our regular meeting to 4 p.m.?
Yes. The test election is in a meeting.
Test elections.
It's in the meeting.
Yes.
You're in the meeting.
we convened here.
Remember how we did it last time?
Please ensure that the advertisement goes out, Maria, and meets all the requirements. Do you have any other questions or any other issues with regard to the calendar?
Are we looking good, Maria?
We're looking-
Systems go? Does it hesitate?
No, we're looking good. Don't ask me if we're going to sleep tonight. We're looking good.
Okay.
So November 23rd will be the certification?
Yes, ma'am, that's the 10 work days after the election for the absentee ballots and the provisional ballots. And it's the day before Thanksgiving. Is it 23rd or 24th?
we have any questions? You can move forward. District registration,
Already covered, ma'am, district registration.
precinct officials, poll maintenance workers.
Yeah, so precinct official, there's a updated list in your packet, starting on page 17. We will do one more training tomorrow for those, for a couple of precincts makeup.
How were precinct officials chosen or selected?
Okay, so nominees from the parties came in, they had a deadline, and from there, we trained them. Those that did not come to training, we take them off the list, and then we fill in with the walk-ins. And then, so as they come in or as they come back, you know, we will consider them depending on how they did, if they worked the primary. We give, on top of all this, we give priority to those that did really well in the primary election, for the Republicans and the Democrats both. Then we continue to have walk-ins, we continue to slot them in. Then came the class, so we slotted in the students from that class. And that's how, up to this day, I think we're still looking for a couple of villages, and we've reached out to our mayors to help us.
Maria, I noticed that there was quite a few of the leaders that have been swapped out from the last list that you made. Is there a particular reason why we have so many swaps?
It could be because of the exams, and it also could be because they did not want to be leaders. Most times it's because they did not want to be leaders.
Okay. Is there anything else that we could do to, try to keep our leaders?
If they didn't want to be leaders, sir, as far as we see, it's best that we don't make them leaders. Is there, let me know which part.
I'm just curious if there's any concerns, because I'm noticing there's quite a few here that we swapped out.
Okay, yeah.
It's not like just 2 or 3. This is quite a
Okay,
big number of people that
you can let
were
me know
swapped out.
after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maria, this is not a complaint, this is a concern. Poll maintenance workers are not to, set up the precincts, correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
So for Guam, poll maintenance workers set up the precincts. It was a bad setup, and I want to ensure the voters that it's not going to happen this time again. And I want to assure the precinct officials that this won't happen again. What is the plan?
Okay, so ma'am, for all of them, I believe there's a layout. There's a layout that is in the binder for them. We also have checklists that will be reported on later on in this meeting. Also, we will go to Liguan. We will send our rovers to Liguan to check it before we start.
Not only Liguan, this is Okadu,
Oh, yeah.
Jigo, any place set up in a gym or auditorium or cafeteria.
Okay.
This was something consistent that was seen throughout the day visiting these precinct areas. There should be a basic sketch of precinct officials, poll watchers, not poll watchers behind precinct officials. Right? Do we have any questions on that item 4? Item 5, special studies, election administration.
We have 31 people, 31 students in that class. 4 opted to go ahead and pay for credit. We will have, not all 31 are precinct officials. Some will be the election assistants that we are, hiring to help with accessible voting. And the reason they're not precinct officials, they're GCC GCC or UOG students that will really want to do the course. So they can be election assistants at the bigger polling sites.
Do any of our commissioners have any questions regarding these, this class election administration?
Sorry, I thought part of that course is that they had to be precinct officials.
Yes, and so what happened was, in the course of getting it approved, if you remember, in the course of getting it approved, we had the UOG and GCC both, mostly UOG, expressed that there were some students that were not U.S. citizens, but were very interested in the course. We do need election assistants.
It required them to be, otherwise they won't.
Can I ask legal counsel to look into this?
Sorry, there.
So I was the one who reviewed what the
Yeah.
requirements for the course were and approved it. And so now this is something different because it required them to do an internship as precinct officials for the stipend. And now we're giving them an option of not being precinct officials.
Okay.
And now, how are you paying them?
The purpose of the course
Yes.
was to have more precinct
It was
officials.
to bring more, so I'm not sure if that complies with.
So in the process of review, we went through, with the university, we went through the process at least 3 times. On the 3rd time, because of the interest in the students, it was changed to, it was listed at $350 for precinct officials and $200 for election assistants. I understand.
Sorry, for the record, I did not approve that.
I don't recall that.
review that part.
Like I said, okay, we can, yeah. What happened was, if legal counsel and I had to go through it right after the meeting here, and he did approve it without that. Then I went to UOG, and I had problems getting it approved. Went back to legal counsel, and I was letting him know what my problems were. And so, yes, he's right, that he didn't approve that part of it. In fact, it was only after, but right before, on Friday, right before that I was asked to see if I could do that. Because at that time, it was only for continuing education units. And so I can go back and let them know, but we do need we were tasked to hire election assistants, and so I can take it outside of the class and put them, can I hire these guys? We're supposed to hire election assistants, and we're in the process of hiring them.
Our discussion and the approval by the commissioners was for precinct officials. That was the MOU, the agreement that was read and approved. Now, anything outside of that, the commissioners are not aware. Neither is legal counsel. And I would be hard pressed to approve anything without legal counsel's review and or guidance to ensure that this commission is not going to be taken to court or jeopardized, right? So that being said, Maria, these were things that you agreed to without our knowledge. seek legal counsel's guidance and fix it.
Okay.
It's not going to happen unless it comes
Okay.
before us in the way and the manner that it should. Legal,
I don't see a problem with hiring them as election assistants because that's outside the scope. The problem is with the class portion.
I'm sorry, problem.
Is with the course.
Yeah.
Because the course requires them to meet certain requirements. Notwithstanding that, you accepted them into a course in which they're already not eligible to meet the requirements because they're not U.S. citizens and cannot serve as precinct officials because they cannot be registered voters. And so you're putting the students in a situation where they agree to sign up for this class, but not eligible to partake in the entirety of the course. So that's my concern, is that we're doing these things that are setting these students up to not complete. So does that mean they don't get the CEUs now? It should mean that because they can't meet the requirements. And so now you're requiring them to go to class, but not being able to meet the requirements, and therefore, why do they go to class and pay for units when they're not eligible to complete the course?
So if you remember, the course was set up, the initial course that was approved here was for 2 credits. When UOG remained on their approval for the 2 credits with the recordation fee of $40, I had to step back and say, we cannot afford to pay the $442. It went back to CEUs. So when it went back to CEUs, the requirements for a credit is 15 contact hours. The requirements for a CEU is 10 contact hours per 1 CEU. And that's how I fit it in. I apologize. So everybody in the class, with the exception of 4 students, will get either 2 CEUs or 3 CEUs. The 3 CEUs will be with those people that are working the election. The 2 CEUs will be those people that we were working with election assistants. So I'll speak with legal counsel and hire the election assistants outside of the class, but they will still earn the CEUs. Sorry.
How do they meet the CEU requirements when I specifically wrote that part of the requirement is they be a precinct official?
Okay. So when the course outline was put together, it did say that they were going to meet 30 contact hours.
Notwithstanding the contact hours, the specific course requirement was classroom time plus working as a precinct official. You can't divorce those 2 now because they're the requirements for the CEUs, regardless of the contact hours.
Okay. So the course was initially,
I mean, never mind initial.
well, okay.
But
So,
what happened when we finally approved it is what we have to go off
okay.
of.
So it was finally approved as an PA 294, PA 494. PA 294 and 494 were for 2 credits, public administration sophomore level and public administration senior level course, 494, special studies in elections administration. The academic rigor that went with that would be for the 294. All of them would take the regular precinct official legal exam. The ones that are taking it for 494 would require a research paper. And so the academic rigor and the requirements were built into the course outline.
Well, that's only for those taking it for credit.
When UOG did not agree to charge us only $40, I had to go back and change the course outline. And I did.
But the course outline is still a set course plus official.
It was on that Friday, Vince, that I had to come back and review, I had to come back and revisit the course outline to make it approvable by the university.
So you changed it.
Yes.
You changed what the commissioners voted to approve.
Okay.
You changed it without our knowledge.
Ma'am, it was to get it approved so that the class will go on, but with we had talked about election assistance before. Yeah, I understand, but that's how I got it to be approved by UOG.
Okay, so you changed something, an agreement, legal counsel reviewed, commissioners approved. You changed something without our knowledge. There's concerns with regard to how we treat these students now, right? I mean, it may not seem like a huge thing, but it is. All right, how are we going to deal? So right now, these students don't have to be precinct officials pursuant to your changes,
Okay.
right? They don't have to. You can hire them as election officials, right?
Registration forms were different. Ma'am, it was, if you remember, I don't know who, I came from this meeting with your approval, went to the university, and they said, no, it's not a go. We were supposed to start the class on September 30th. They still didn't give us an answer, so I had
Well,
to.
Maria, at that point, you should have said, okay. You come back to the commission and say, we can't do it. UOG doesn't want to do it. They've reneged on what they initially discussed, right? So now we need to figure out what to do with these students. And this was something that wasn't approved by the commission. I don't know, legal counsel, really at this point, what we're going to do.
I'm sorry, can you just clarify? I get the part about that UOG changed its mind, and Maria, you took some action that wasn't approved. What is the problem today that we're facing? And is there something that we need to try to fix?
Well, according to what legal counsel says, that we have, okay, so right now, what's happening, or what is, they finished the class. We met for 3 Fridays. So some of, they have different registration forms. So different registration forms. So those, some registered as precinct officials, some registered as election assistants. 2 CEUs versus 3 CEUs. And so what is being addressed is that that's not in what was approved by the commissioners.
Okay, but what, I mean, that's a problem on our end. How many students are we talking about, and is there a problem with the students?
I don't have a problem with the students, and I don't think the students have a problem.
How many are there?
31.
Okay. Are they all going to get whatever credit they're supposed to get?
Yes, I mean, based on the course permission form approved by the university, yes.
Okay, and then if I understood counsel correctly, though, part of the question, I don't know if it's our issue or just the school's issue, if they were supposed to serve as precinct officials and couldn't, if that was part of what it took to pass this course and get credit, how did they get credit then?
Okay. In the last minute approval, disapproval process, registration forms were actually the course outline and the course syllabus. The course syllabus was changed to accommodate these, the other students. So, so because it, and I apologize for not bringing it back up to you, but that judgment call was because when they said it wasn't approved and it was only for CEUs, or for continuing education units, as opposed to credits, that's when I went back and changed the course syllabus to accommodate both the precinct officials and the election assistants.
Maria, I got a quick question because I'm looking at the list here. There's 22 UOG/GCC.
Uh-huh.
Is this the students we're discussing?
Yes.
So we have 22 of them out of the 31.
Correct.
We got 22 of them.
Has this, part of the deal was these students were supposed to be our fill-in and anticipated shortfall of precinct officials. And now most of them can't,
No, most of them did, 22 out of 31.
could not.
No, are. Are.
Okay. Oh, I see, okay. So we're okay on that?
The one that says UOG,
Yeah. So,
22 of them. So 9.
so we're not being put in a shortfall position because of this problem?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, it's my error, my judgment call, that I made the mistake of changing it without bringing it back up to the commission.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, that also goes back to the question because I was looking and comparing our last list to this. I'm like, why did we have so many swaps? So I can see that it's all coming from UOG, GCC.
Oh, no, not all of them.
Most of it, right? Yeah.
Not even most, sir, because there's really 335.
Yeah.
And what's happening with Tammy is they don't make the training as they were scheduled, so,
Okay.
yeah.
There are 4 students that you are going to assign for election outside of precinct official?
No. 22 are precinct officials, so that means 9. 9 of them will be election assistants.
Of the 22, 9 will be election.
No, of the 31,
Of the 31, 9 will be
election
election.
assistants.
And these are election assistants. They are election assistants because they are not U.S. citizens,
Correct.
and they attended a class
Yes.
that requires them to be precinct officials, that should have required them to meet the requirements to be a precinct official, but you came back and you changed that so that they could qualify.
Yes, ma'am, I apologize.
Madam Chair, it strikes me that this is something we probably should give some thought to, but I don't know that it needs us to we need to take action on it tonight.
No, yep, I appreciate that, and I do agree. Please make a note of that, legal counsel, just do a little bit of research. All right. And the whole purpose was to meet precinct official needs. I'm not very convinced that this class will meet precinct official needs. I would like the commissioners to start thinking about potentially changes to the law that would either allow us to increase the number of individuals. We have early voting now, right? So increase the number of individuals in precincts or regional voting, right? Combining our given the fact that we have now by law early voting, the challenges with precinct officials, right? So those are things that we should start seriously looking at. May address some of our issues, concerns, challenges for election, all right? So I think legal counsel, that was one of the things that legal counsel was going to research, I think it was. Yep. And then we can. All right, absentee report, Maria?
On page 27,
For clarification, the last day to request for homebound is 4 p.m. on November 8th, the day of election. However, that does not guarantee that an individual will be serviced. So for the public, if there is an individual that needs homebound voting, that they ought to contact the Guam Election Commission immediately so that they can be scheduled, correct?
yes,
In addition to that, they're allowed one caregiver to vote with them, correct? Off-island application or absentee application, the last day for absentee request is
November 5th.
November 5th. At that point in time, any requests on that day, the ballots will be sent out via email, correct?
Yes, I think, ma'am, we're already advising our absentee voters who are requesting now, if that, if they we're advising them or giving them the option to get e-ballots.
I haven't seen the website, the page, the homepage, but please indicate these things. This is a recommendation, not a complaint, Maria.
Yeah.
Indicate the dates of these things that are due so that the public is aware. And that hopefully it helps people to not wait to the last minute. And we tell people, do not wait to the last minute for early voting. For the primary, we had, in that last week, over 1,000 people come in, and the wait was long because people waited till the last week. So we have 2 more weeks.
1 full week.
We have 1 full week of early voting left. Take advantage of that and the satellite. Do we have any questions from the commissioners regarding the absentee? We addressed that issue, Maria, with envelope labels falling off.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if the commissioners remembered that it just happened to be my sister's ballot that was returned because the label that the GEC used fell off the envelope. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, we brought it up to the postmaster, and her synopsis was it probably got wet somewhere in the route.
Maria, just for clarification, number 4 is ballots sent, 4,418. Ballots returned, 4,098. There's a difference of 320 ballots.
All off-island.
Okay.
so that could mean they haven't been returned yet, right? They're still, okay.
That's unaccounted for, yeah. Okay.
All right, no further discussion. That's absentee monthly voter by precinct report.
We still have only the September 25th. Today is the closing for October, so we will get you a report for as of October 24th. We will, tonight we'll get how many, so the list, an actual list can get to you next, of course, everything will be next week, but the actual roster, a copy of the roster, I have yet to confirm with our printer.
online motor voter registration and pre-registration?
It stopped on October 18th, ma'am. And so we are processing, I think, we are processing DMV. I think it's around 300 some for September to October, or October 18th.
How soon, Maria, can we, and this is something that the GEC should consider doing, right, is, what are they called? Data. Pulling data from our voters, people who come out. I mean, it's great that we have 59,298 people registered. That's a good part due to passive registration with the DMV, but it doesn't mean that, and what happens is, the more we get registered, it seems like the fewer come out to vote, right? So passive registration does not equal voter turnout, right? So I think the GEC should consider collecting data with regard to voter turnout. And that being said, how soon can we get information? I know that there is some data collected from the primary, and then how soon after from the general?
Okay, actually, ma'am, we don't collect data from the primary election. The rosters are made available, and so people come in and review the rosters and put their data together. But for the primary election, at this point, we don't collect data until after the election.
Okay. So as I said earlier, it's something that maybe the Guam Election Commission can consider doing.
Do we have the capability to pull data for the voter turnout?
I think that's being done at UOG right now. Right?
No.
No?
Ma'am, sir, what was the question?
For data collection,
Uh-huh.
do we have the capability to pull data for voter turnout?
We do that for the general, and yes, we have capability.
No, but for the primary?
We don't tag the primary. We can.
Maria, we've been asking for a while for information on the number of people who register through motor voter, what their actual
Yeah.
voting rate is.
Actually, sir, that was provided for the 2020. It was sent to,
2020?
yeah.
What about anything current?
We don't collect the data for the primary. We will collect it for the general, and we will do it for the general. We did it for the primary, we can send it to you again. I'm sorry, we did it for the 2020, yeah.
And why don't we
Okay.
collect for the primary?
We can tag it, but we tag the general because we need to know who to purge. We don't collect the primary. We can do it after the general and tag them too, and collect them. It'll just take us a little longer to get that information after the general, after certification.
I think it's important to collect data from the primary as well. Okay.
Okay, ma'am, so we will collect it only after the general. Is that what we will?
Well, if that's all we can do at this point in time, then
Yeah.
after the general, but the Guam Election Commission, given you've received our support to hire people, to organize, et cetera, to consider moving forward, that when we move forward, that data be collected from the primary and the general and made available as soon as possible. I don't know if any of the other commissioners would disagree with that.
Madam Chair.
And
Anything that we can do to enhance our data collection is a
Yeah.
good thing.
So it would be only on the voter participation? Or would it be, because to the extent of what we collect for the general?
I I think for most,
That would require a lot more input.
I think the report that we're providing for the general, if we can pair it with the primary, that'd be good so that we have a singular system that we're following, not something different from another.
Okay.
Talking about age, right? Things like that, that kind of data.
Age, gender,
Gender, things of that sort. Nothing that violates privacy issues. The legal counsel can provide guidance on that kind of data that we can collect. Do we have any other discussion or questions with regard to that? Now, I don't know if this would be the place, online voter registration. Never mind. Where are we at? Volunteer voter registrar report?
We just put it on, ma'am, so that the agenda could be inclusive. We reported last time on the volunteer voter registrars. Everybody turned in their thing as of October 18th.
No questions? Monthly financial report, U.S. Election Assistance Commission grant?
The financial reports are attached. They start on page 29. Madam Chair, if you remember back in July, we were updating our connection to the federal grant system. There are two. There's the CAGE, and there's the F2 systems. So to this day, we're still trying to, or EAC is trying to update us or get us back into the system. And the reason I mention it now is because an additional $200,000 is coming for the Guam Election Commission. And we're just waiting. The award letter is ready. We just need to get the financial management systems updated, and Election Assistance Commission is still working on it.
Any questions? Maria, with these grants, you can use these grants or utilize these grants to update our system and technology, right? To help increase voter awareness, voter turnout, voter...
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if this is where I could bring this up. I'm going to bring it up anyway. And I would like to ask that you make note of it, is some way using technology that is safe and secured, right, as far as elections go, that allow a voter to sign in electronically, and that information is immediately sent and or seen by poll watchers, as an example. As opposed to our manual. I don't know, Pat, if you experience this as, the independent member. When the parties go in, they have poll watchers. They call the name out, and you sign the book, and then a poll watcher would highlight or cross out the voter's name, right? And that goes. So one of the easier ways using technology is to have an individual actually electronically sign in. And it goes, it can go online or however it works, and that's immediate, right? So that's a technology that I think you guys should start looking at and exploring, just to make things run a little more efficient and effectively. Do you have any discussion on that? No? Okay. 2022 financial disclosure, page 32. Are these people who did not, or is this everybody that should have?
Everybody that should have, ma'am. I better clarify that. Again, these include, I believe these include conflict of interest statements. So it's still not all inclusive with regard to boards and commissions.
right. I think it's been the policy of the Guam Election Commission to send letters out to individuals who violate it, right? And then we just send to the AG's office, because right now we can't fine people.
Yeah, yeah. This is the personal financial disclosures statement, so this goes up to the Ethics Commission. We're just a repository.
All right, do we have any questions or discussion regarding the list?
Madam Chair, I think this is also an item that should be, the Guam Election Commission should be removed. And now that the Ethics Commission is in place, these should go directly to them. Because really, Guam Election Commission has no ability to, all we do is say, you didn't turn it in, or you turned it in.
We're talking about both the FDS and the
Conflicts.
conflict, correct?
Because that's what the Ethics Commission is really supposed to take care of, right? Is if there's an issue with conflicts and to determine, look at those financial disclosure agreements for government officials. So really, that's their purview now that they're seated.
So that would require legislation.
Yeah, just to remove Guam Election Commission, because the way the law reads is Guam Election Commission collects it, and then you turn it over to Guam Ethics Commission. That's what the law says.
So let's take a look at that, and if that's something that we can do in the next year.
Because that'll be a task these guys don't have to
Yep.
deal with.
Yeah. Thank you, legal counsel. Any discussion on the 22 financial disclosure statement? All right, Election Commission campaign finance?
They're due them 10 days before the general election.
So the 28th? Right?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
That would be this Friday?
Yes.
Okay. That's all gubernatorial and legislative candidates.
Everyone, and except the congressional delegate, and even the non-partisan, ma'am.
Okay. And they've all been notified?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion, questions from the commissioners? Office of the Inspector General, Maria, item I.
I had reported in the last meeting that they've agreed to set it so that it's after the general election.
Old business, ballot measures.
Nothing to report, ma'am.
Okay. New business, working session committee report, page 40.
Madam Chair, that's some suggestions for Maria and her staff on how, I think we all felt that the primary election did not go as smoothly as it could have because of just the length of time it took to complete the tabulation. So a couple of things that we would suggest, I believe, and I'll go through it very quickly. The start of the election day, there doesn't seem to be any serious problems. Everybody gets set up and takes their inventory. The one caution is, and Madam Chair, you brought this up earlier, when they're setting, if there's like in the Okado or where, at Jigo or wherever there's multiple precincts in one area, the precinct workers have to be aware that they need to set the ballot boxes in a way that minimizes the risk of a voter inadvertently dropping their ballot in the wrong box, because it really throws off their count if that happens. And that's Okay. But okay, then during the day, the big problems are processing absentee ballots. Actually, the express vote ballots become a bit of a problem later in the evening, but during the day, provisional ballots and the processing of absentee ballots are the two big areas. The absentee ballots, there's a lot more than there used to be. Ideally, the precinct officials would do this all at once. It doesn't take them that long to process them, but they can't start until the poll opens, and so then they get busy and they don't do it all at once. So they need to be encouraged to try to do it as quickly as possible in the day and to make use of any dead time during the day. The provisional ballots are always a problem, and what we'd recommend is a checklist for the precinct officials that one person in among that precinct staff be responsible for following a checklist, and we have a sample checklist there, and just go down the checklist. And the point is, you don't argue with the voters, you don't turn voters away, you explain. At the precinct official level, there's not much you can do. You can call GEC, and then either if it can't be worked out right there on the spot, you give them, they go to where they are registered, if they're registered in a different precinct, or they vote provisionally. And the idea is to make it clear you're not turning them away, but you're also not engaging in an argument. And if they follow a checklist, I think they're more likely to stay on message for that.
Commissioner Seville, just real quick, with regard to provisional ballots, I don't know how this has happened, but I think the general public have this idea that a provisional ballot will not be counted, which is not true, correct? Provisional ballots are reviewed, and if it is legitimate, it is placed with the precinct that it should be, correct, Maria? And it is counted. So, because I've heard that, well, I don't want to vote provisional because it doesn't matter anyway, it's not going to get counted.
Yeah.
It gets counted. So
That should be added to the checklist to tell them, don't turn them away. And if they do decide to use a provisional ballot, it doesn't mean their vote won't count. It just needs to be straightened out. They need to straighten out where they should have voted. Yeah. When they get to UOG, the Station 1, the check-in, that actually went pretty smoothly. The lines are smaller than usual. Station 2, the unlocking the ballot box, there weren't any problems there. But at Station 3, the reconciliation station, there were major delays. 20 precincts were still not balanced out by 2 a.m., and the final precincts were after 4 a.m. And that's really where I think we need to focus a lot of our attention. And a couple of things is, once again, and to use a pit crew formula, and it's on the attached form, assign a number to each precinct worker, like 1 through 5. And then if they follow a checklist, 1 and 2 have certain functions. So, and the idea is to get all the precincts processing these the same way. And then 3 and 4 have a function, and actually it's 1 is the team leader, and then 2 and 3 have functions, 3 and 4 have functions, and 5 has a function. And if they all follow that, they should, I think, be more efficient in reaching. But if they do run into problems, and this is important, they need to be instructed to contact GEC staff promptly. I think there's been an attitude over the years, and maybe on our part, on the staff part, of let them tough it out and let them figure it out, and we let that go on too long. We need to nip it in the bud. There should be at least 3 teams of GEC, 3 GEC teams that are canvassing the floor. Maria, I think we should have a policy that if any precinct is not either balanced out or well on the way to balancing out in 2 hours, you have to let us know. That has to be a red flag. Now, I realize some of the larger precincts take longer, but let's know what's going on and where the problem is early in the evening, and then get a team on it. The other, okay, and then at Station 4, returning the supplies, that went pretty well, but we know there was a problem, and so I think the GEC team has to be instructed to be responsible for checking the bags for any cast ballot envelopes. Make sure nothing inadvertently gets turned in, any ballots that yeah. And I'm sorry, one of the things, and I think we discussed this a couple of meetings ago, is to streamline the process at Station 3. I think where we landed is that the precinct workers, officials, should put the ballots back in the envelopes, but don't seal them. Okay, and that'll save some time. At Station 5, once again, I think we should use kind of the pit crew format where everybody has a function. You've got 3 people at the tabulating machines, and we've attached a checklist that would tell each one of them what they're supposed to do. So number 1 does this, number 2 is the operator, he does this, with the goal of keeping the tabulator running as completely as possible. And then number 3, they put them in the envelopes and put them back in the boxes. A couple of things that we think would help is reconfigure the replication and board signing area. And so have the boards, rather than chasing board members through the evening, if we could agree as a board member to have, 4 people sitting at a table or near that table, and then bring the envelopes to us. Have one of the 3 people designated, I think we have number 1, who, picks it up, brings it to us, we sign it, and they take it back. And I think that would be, we think that would be more, I keep saying but we think that would be more efficient. And then have the replication, 2 teams at the replication table. And that could include the same folks who are sitting at the signature table. And then the commissioners can rotate. I think we need to have 1 Republican and 1 Democrat always, and an independent or, yeah.
You may need to have 3.
3,
Because you
okay.
have 3 tabulators, and sometimes if we're running all the tabulators
Yeah.
at one time,
Yeah,
that's the problem. Sometimes when one tabulator is waiting because there's only 1 team or 2 teams, and then if you have to replicate it, that
Yeah.
takes longer. So if we
Yeah.
have all the teams there, I think that's probably
yeah,
more efficient. So 1 team handles tabulator 1, 1 team handles tabulator 2, and then if you need to rotate, you can do that because there
Yeah.
will always be a team there. But
Yeah.
I think that's because it's really that's what slows down, it sort of stops the tabulation. Even though we're done tabulating the ballots, if there's 2 ballots that need to be replicated and there's only one team at the table, that's what will stop that tabulation for that. And then if there's other replications from the other 2, so if we can just keep an eye on making sure there's ample teams there, hopefully
Yeah.
it won't be so bad.
Yeah. And on page, oh, I'm sorry. Go
People
ahead.
to color in the oval.
Color, yeah. On page 48, we have a suggested tabulator checklist. One of the things is, don't wait for the ballots in the first box to be counted before opening the next box. So as soon as the last ballots from box 1 are jogged and go onto the tabulator, the second box should, that number 1 assistant should be opening the next box and getting that ready to go, so we can get, and over time, I mean, it's not a huge savings, but over time, the course of the evening, it could really add up to an appreciable savings.
There's one thing missing with this, and this is from Liz and I's perspective, what we have to reconcile. So we had that issue with the 24 ballots that were stuck in the bag, and it wasn't caught. It was counted eventually, but that's the problem with rushing these tabulators and rushing the boxes through, is they don't log in stuff, they miss stuff, so we're always having to go back when we're reconciling that to the beginning of table 5 to see how much. So we're having to pull those, what is it, 314s or whatever? Yeah, so we're always having to go back, and so we can't release reports until we reconcile. And so when those issues come up, when the tabulators are filling out their log, and we need to reconcile it with that log, it's sometimes because we're doing, if you recall how we do it, we download from each tabulator, so we're looking at maybe 6 to 10 precincts that we need to reconcile before we run the reports. And if anything's missing or not accurate, then we have to go back to that tabulator. They need to stop and then figure out where. And so part of assistant number 1 should be, once that precinct is done tabulating, I don't know, maybe it's number 3, but they need to run on the screen, on the tabulator, it shows how many ballots were counted. So that's the number we reconcile with what was on that 3-4. Yeah.
The form.
And so that's why sometimes there's a stop, because we need to reconcile. And you notice we don't do that until after 3 or 4 precincts for each tabulator. So I just want to make sure that is somewhere in here.
Yeah, I think it's on number 2 on page 48.
The operator.
And it probably doesn't say this as clearly as you just did, but when you finish all ballots for one precinct, the operator needs to press save.
Yeah, so that's when the number comes up.
Yeah.
And that's when the number needs to get logged.
So the operator needs to be trained to do that.
Yeah.
At the end of a precinct, hit save.
I mean, most of the times it's done.
And that will give you a batch report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the times it's done. It's just that when we're rushing them to try to get them through the precincts, that's when we find the mistakes happen.
The final thought that I think as commissioners we should think about, okay, is the chain of command needs to be observed. And I know we all kind of get involved and wound up different times during the evening, but we want to avoid too many cooks in the kitchen, and we should have an idea, clarify what our role as board members is. And if we have complaints or if we see things that are need to be done. I think the chain of command is to tell Maria, and Maria needs then to instruct her staff, rather than commissioners giving instructions to the staff. So there should be, I think one thing that avoids conflicting instructions, and the staff knows, okay, you hear it from the boss, and so that's I think something that we need to really give some thought to on election night. Yeah. Okay, that's our kind of our recommendations. I think we provided a couple of checklists for Maria to look at, and those could certainly be tweaked, but I think that will, particularly at Station 3, if they follow a checklist, and on provisional ballots, if they follow a checklist, they'll avoid a lot of mistakes. Yeah.
On the GEC's part, this is really good. I really appreciate the team that, spent, I think, a couple of Saturdays to discuss this and put this together, right? Commissioner Pangolina and Commissioner Pinalla and Commissioner Seville. So I really appreciate the input, you guys taking the time to do this. I hope that the GEC Executive Director takes this into consideration. They are recommendations to help voter experience and to help the commission run much more efficiently and effectively, right? And all of that. With regard to the commission, like signs, I think it would be good that the commission create those signs, right? So create the signs in such a way that so when I went to MTM, signs were falling from the wall. They were taped on the wall, but they kept falling. No loitering, no talking, things like that, right? So could the commission, Maria, you and your team, order signs that would stand, right? As opposed to being taped on the walls, and then that's consistent for all our precincts, right? You can, in League One, you put it out in the classroom, in the hallway. In the cafeterias, you could put it out where they'd see no loitering, 100%, that kind of stuff, right? That these are signs that can be seen as soon as they enter, as opposed to being up on the wall. That's just not a complaint, it's a consideration or an input. All right?
So you're talking about signs at the precincts? Yeah.
Yes, signs at the precincts. Can you think of a way that's going to be like much more visible, right? And so that teams, the precinct officials, while I was there at MTM, they kept having to get tape and post it up because it'd fall. Pick it up, post it up, So something that stands. Just take a look at things that would be helpful, right, for the voter, and then to make things easier for our precinct officials, right? Good stuff. Gorilla tape? Yeah, like a pole, or they have those like triangular kind of stands. I don't know what they're called. Yeah, or the banners that come up, as long as they can stand, they're not going to be blown. Like at MTM, the signs would be inside. As soon as you come in, the signs were on the wall. You couldn't see it, right? And they kept falling. So you could have the signs placed at the entrance on both sides, right? I mean, these may seem like little things, but they really do make a difference, and it helps precinct officials. They can say, well, the sign's right there. You can see it. It's visible. All right, just things like that. All right, so thank you guys for setting this up. Do we have any discussions with regard to our precinct report? Oh, where's my agenda? You might also need to make signs for the commissioners on election night. Like, we'll figure out teams, right, and things of that sort. Okay. What's next? Precinct official pay. Oh, okay. What about it?
Ma'am, we put it, if you remember, we wanted to put everything on the agenda so that if we're going to address it, or, so,
We had asked that the precinct official pay be increased to 500. That is something that needs to be changed by law. However, is there any way to pay the additional 150, if my math is correct, as a stipend of sorts? Can we use federal funds to help with that, right? What is our justification? That's what I'm asking is, we see the work that goes into this, and 500 I really think is,
Reasonable.
yeah.
And it draws more attention to becoming a precinct official.
Yeah.
Because they were asking that too.
Inflation is a tough thing.
I think absent the law change and any approval by any federal, it's not like 2020 when we got approval from election assistants to use some of that CARES money to pay them extra. We just don't have that authority from the federal funds that we have now or from the legislature to use general fund money. So I'm not sure how, unless Maria can ask.
Can we ask, well, not the legislature, it's too late, right? But on the federal side,
Yeah.
is can we use this for an additional 150? Are we okay with 5?
Yeah, 5 would be
Fine.
now.
Okay. An additional 150 for precinct officials, right? And this would go towards, they come in for training, right? And they're there all day. So is that okay for Maria to ask the federal officials if we can use federal funds for this?
I don't see any
Yeah.
harm in asking.
Okay. All right, so Maria, so reach out to the grant or program coordinator, grant coordinator, and see if this is something that we can do. I mean, I think that would be huge.
And I know there are some cheap sons of guns out there, but there must be some sort of standard.
They don't,
Pat Seville, our precinct officials do more than the jurisdictions out there in most cases. They don't work as long as we do, and they do much more than they do over there. In America, in the jurisdictions over there, they just drive through, turn in all the stuff, and leave. So with regard to pay,
Who does table 3, station 3 work?
it's all in the USB.
And they're up to date in their
Election, machines in operation. And that's something maybe we can also look at, right? How we can, on our end, how we can make it easier and faster and more efficient.
Okay, in the past, Commissioner Benny, one of the issues was, does the commission want the machines to go online during the day? Because that's what it's going to require. The poll books, like you guys are talking about, requires access to the internet.
Well, we also talked to a guy from EES too, where he mentioned that, you could actually start, accounting for votes right at the precinct.
And that's what they do, actually, with the USBs.
So, again, that's for another discussion.
Those are machines that we can actually put out at the different polling places, put their ballot in, and it's counted, right?
But
So,
I think the chairwoman was asking about, funding for, additional funding. And so I think if we can look at the federal government and see whether or not there's an ability for us to pay an additional $150 to the precinct officials. I know, like with the census, there's a different rate depending on where you're at in the United States and what part of the United States you're in. And it's all based on population, and they have their own formulas. If we maybe perhaps need to be updated so that we can get paid a little bit more, again, there's, all kinds of ways to skin the cat. Look at it, a good possibility, and like the legal counsel says, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, but if we're gonna go to machines that do more than just print out the ballots right now, like what we have with the express votes, we need to change the law.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the law prohibits those types of machines right now.
I anticipate that I anticipate after this election, we'll be able to scrub down, our performance and come up with some ideas on how we can be more efficient. And if it requires going back and changing the law, I'm sure we can, work together and make that happen. But, there's nothing, I think that should be the goal, right? Always to make it better than it was or as it is.
But, I was going to ask you, I forgot, never mind. I was going to ask you something.
But Commissioner
Pat.
Pat,
No.
Commissioner Pat, I didn't answer your question about where we fall within pay. I think we're one of the higher, we pay one of the higher stipends.
Okay, but we...
We do much more, yeah.
Okay. And just to be clear, we are not, our system still is not connected to the internet, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, correct, absolutely not.
Okay.
The tabulators are not connected at all.
Okay.
Just so we're clear, the tabulators are not connected to the internet.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is good because it makes it much more difficult to hack.
It cannot be hacked.
Cannot be hacked. That's even
Cannot be
better
hacked.
than more difficult, yeah.
So the talk about poll books, okay, that forces us to go on the internet. The electronic signatures, that forces us to go on the internet.
Well, those are things that you can look at, because since the discussion with poll book was maybe 10 years ago, things could have changed. There could be things out there. Just all I'm saying is take a look at what's out there and identify what it is that we can do to help be a little more efficient, right? Technology. Precinct ES&S site report.
Mr. Steve Wang, it has been confirmed that Mr. Steve Wang will be with us. He'll be coming on November 4th.
I'm sorry.
On November 4th. And we'll have the test election on November 6th. Steve Wang.
Steve Wayne.
I'm sorry, November 4th.
November. Yeah.
November 4th.
How long after the election will he be with us?
November 12th. 7 days.
Okay, good. All right. Do we have any questions with regard to that? Yes, okay. Legal counsel? All right. Thank you, legal. Public comments? We don't have anybody here present in the public? All right. So the next is our...
Madam Chair, I have just one question.
Looking around and,
Just release our badges.
We normally give it to you on test election day. So then you have it.
Something about the text that
Oh, no, everybody comes in on test election.
Okay. November
6th, ma'am?
November 6th at 4.
That's it? All right.
No, tons of-
At the UOG Fieldhouse?
Yes.
Right? So can I get a motion to adjourn until November 6th, 4 PM at the UOG Fieldhouse?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move a motion to approve, to adjourn until November 6th, 4 PM at the UOG Fieldhouse.
Seconded by Pat.
So we have a motion on the floor to adjourn this meeting of the Guam Election Commission until Sunday, November 4th, 2022 at 4 PM to be held at the UOG Fieldhouse. And this would be a regular GEC meeting and test election. Moved by Commissioner Pinella and seconded by Commissioner Seville. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right. See you November 6th, 4 PM. Thank you.
a lot of shooting people